And this vivitriva karmehi, vivitra akusalehi dhammehi, separated, aloof from sensuality, separated, aloof from unwholesome phenomena. Piti sukhang patamang jhanang pasampacha viharati. Someone dwells in the first jhana accompanied by rapture and bliss. So this is incredible often comes incredible often, and it's important for that reason. One issue is because often these repetitions are abbreviated, and then we start losing awareness, mindfulness, and how important they are. And the jhanas are mentioned very, very regularly, very frequently. And that is the typical formula. And that already indicates how to get there. So you have to be, first of all, completely beyond sensuality. So if you feel you're in some ecstatic, mystical state when you are drugged out and dancing away on a wave, it wouldn't qualify because it is obviously connected with sensuality. Or if someone may be in war, the people can get into this quite amazing mind state sometimes, where they are super sharp, super alert, they may not even notice any pain, they're heavily injured and continue fighting and don't even notice it. Again, there cannot possibly be Jhana in the Buddhist sense, or anywhere close to that. Because in war, when you run around killing people, is obviously an unwholesome phenomena. And then piti sukha, that is no rapture and bliss. So the crucial ingredient for the first full state of samadhi, in the first jhana, it will be rapture and bliss. The other explanation the Buddha usually gives is the suppression of the 5 hindrances. The 5 hindrances, 5 mental hindrances, is what stop the mind from attaining samadhi. In fact, the default state of the mind is actually samadhi. In a sense, you don't have to do anything for your mind to rest in samadhi. The problem is that we are all continuously, actively pushing the mind out. It's just like in a body of water. The natural state of a body of water is to be completely still. Of course, mostly when you see water, it will not be completely still, because there may be wind, there may be rain, there may be frogs or ducks swimming there, or someone throwing stones, and that creates ripples. But still, the default position of a body of water, if there are no disturbance, it would be completely still. Fascinatingly, it's the same with our mind. So what you have to do, so to speak, to attain samadhi is only to stop disturbing and pushing the mind outside. Of course, that's not so easy. We're so used to it. Yeah. And the Buddha explains it via the 5 hindrances. Sensual desire, ill will, aversion, sloth and torpor is a typical translation. You could also say laziness and sleepiness, slacking off. Number 4, restlessness and remorse. And number 5, doubt. And the way, the practical way of developing samadhi is actually gradually weakening these 5. Not just when you're in formal meditation and you're hoping now to attain samadhi, but throughout your life, basically. And when the mind experiences freedom from these 5, it will actually experience gladness, and that gladness will develop into rapture and bliss. There's very beautiful similes, like Samanya Pala Sutta. It's the second one in the long discourses, where the Buddha gives no other similes. And sensuality, is like debt. You're in debt. Because to enjoy sensuality, you need to be healthy, you need to have money. And basically you're enjoying your past good karma. If you didn't have good karma, you wouldn't be able to enjoy anything sensually. And if one abandons sensuality, the Buddha said it's similar to a person who has got this huge mortgage, plus his credit card maxed out, plus huge loans. And now you succeed in paying that all back. And you're free from debt. You would feel so happy. Well, the second simile is for ill will, and that is sickness. If you're angry, and it's like a sick person with a bad flu. And again, if you ever had a bad flu, you probably remember how happy you are when you recover. So similar, if we can abandon ill will, aversion, we will feel that gladness, that joy, that happiness, like someone recovering from a bad sickness. The slacking off, vegging out, lazy, sleepy. The Buddha compared it to someone being in a dungeon, in this dark dungeon. Like in the movies in the Middle Ages when they would throw you into a dungeon. Cold, dark, mossy, wet, dirty. This is actually the mind when it's sleepy and lazy. Curiously, we can indulge in that, but if you carefully observe it, if you decide to sleep in on the weekend, you sleep in for hours and hours, and one just gets more and more dizzy and less awake. Although there may still be some kind of fun to indulge in that. But compare that if you are really happy, you're on holiday, you had a good night's sleep, you have a good cup of coffee, and now you're starting doing something you really enjoy and you're really bright and alert. It's obviously so much better. So overcoming laziness, sleepiness, is like getting released from the dungeon. Most people cannot imagine what it is actually like to be free from these, because they are always kind of effective. What a normal person would call that they are free from anger or aversion is actually only a low-level anger aversion. And it's very striking. The one I find maybe most striking in the outstanding Kuba Ajahns is a lack of laziness and sleepiness. It's just unbelievable. They're just so active and alert, often sleeping only in a few hours. I remember once Lumpur Plien visiting the monastery in Perth, and I think he was about 70 when he came. And he would talk, and it was Sunday, and he would talk in the city center for many hours after the meal with the lay community. And then he would come to the monastery, and then almost straight away the evening drink would start, and he would teach more Dhamma. And by 7 p.m. the official Dhamma talk would start, and he would continue teaching And by about 11, after 4 hours, the translating monk, Ajahn Dhammasiha, he couldn't do it anymore. Was too tired. And then Luang Por Prien would still continue for maybe half an hour until he noticed there's no more translation, there's no point. And then he would call an end, and then he would go back to his kuti. And a couple of monks, the ones who are still feeling most alert, he would go to his kuti for a foot massage and some personal advice. And maybe by 1 o'clock these monks are too tired. And then they would go away. And then he would go out, and because he'd been sitting so much, and he would do half an hour walking meditation. And then he would have, at night time, I think he would often only have 2 hours. And then maybe another 2 hours in the afternoon. And would continue like that every day. And he would teach until the translator fades out. And then the usually quite young monks, they would go to the kuti, different ones usually, the ones who muster the energy. And when they would go away and couldn't take it anymore, they would do some walking meditation. Just very amazing what the mind is like if it's actually really free from laziness and sloth and torpor. Most people can't imagine that. They have actually never experienced it. Basically, the only time you really experience it is you have samadhi. There's a kind of awakeness and alertness which is just much better than the best kind of coffee or green tea after a long, good sleep in the holidays is still much better. And similar for freedom from sensuality, freedom from ill will, freedom from restlessness. Restlessness, the Buddha compared to being a slave. Just imagine ancient Rome on the plantations in Dixie in the 19th century, slave work. And the master's just telling you, just working you like a donkey. You have to do whatever you're told and work all day. Not for your own benefit, only for the benefit of your master. It's not nice, no? But this is the restlessness what we suffer from. And again, most people can't imagine what it's like when the mind is free from restlessness, and at the same time free from laziness as well. Usually we vacillate between these two. And when people try to overcome their laziness and lack of alertness, then they become very active. Or when they're very active and at some stage they get tired. But if you abandon both, that's a very high state which most people wouldn't experience. And doubt is the lost caravan. You're in a desert, or even alone. You're in a desert and you lost your way. You're walking along and you're trying to get out of the desert. And abandoning doubt is not like being in the desert and then arriving at an oasis and drinking and lying in the pool. Feels very good. Just one of these will feel very good, and if all 5. So you're sick in your dungeon and then you're released, and additionally you're a slave and you're also released from slavery, and someone pays off all your debt, and you're out of the desert. Hard to imagine now how happy you would be. So that is basically the program. That's the gradual training, again, what is often repeated. And then people lose awareness how important it is. And as in the long discourses, which are obviously very important because it's a collection of the longest discourses. And from number 2 to I think number 13, there's this very, very long repetition in all these dozen suttas about the gradual training and how someone goes into a empty kuti or sitting under a tree or in the wilderness and abandoning these 5 hindrances, experiencing gladness. Gladness turns into rapture. When the person is experiencing rapture, then the body will become tranquil, get a body tranquility. Someone with a completely tranquil body, you can sit for many hours without pain in your knees. And someone with that tranquility will experience bliss, and the blissful mind unifies in Samādhi. Is it your first time in a Buddhist monastery? Yes, no, yeah, I can notice a little bit much maybe. No? Is there any question you have? Doesn't make any sense what I'm saying? It wasn't exactly an introduction for a newcomer. Have you heard the term Samādhi? When people in the concentration in English, the mind is internally unifying in a kind of mystical, blissful experience. They can sit all night if they have got Samādhi, and you would have no sense of time anymore. When they come out, they wouldn't be able to tell whether 5 minutes have passed, or 5 hours, or 5 days, because it's a kind of timeless experience. But it's not yet enlightenment, but on the important part of the way getting there. Yeah, for sure, Ajahn tradition would do that usually. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they have Samādhi. You can also just push it. You just sit and walk and try to arouse energy and fight the sleepiness. But of course, if someone has very good Samādhi, then they can do it easily. You had one until the morning or until midnight? Oh wow, there. Ajahn Siri seems to be stricter. It used to be only till midnight now. After midnight is voluntary, no? You didn't know? Ajahn Chah usually it was all night and everyone was expected. But because then it's already the morning chanting. And then it's over the night. Yeah, sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, you can also write on inspiration. And if you live there for years, and this is every week, then it's obviously more difficult. Yeah. Sometimes you can be amazingly alert after staying awake all night. Sometimes you can push through and get this strong energy going, but it usually catches you then the next day or something. I mean, people can stay up all night when they party, isn't it? It's quite easy. It's not difficult to stay up all night. It's only a question of what do you put your mind on. And if you're trying to watch your breath for the whole night, it appears impossible to stay awake. Thomas had a question. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend being equanimous You see, equanimity in the Buddha's sense is the total opposite of drowsiness. And if you're already drowsy, then there's no equanimity the way the Buddha means it in any case. And you would probably then have some more like a state of indifference, and you can't overcome drowsiness by indifference. Now what you need there is no arousing energy, and not to allow that to seep in, but once you notice it, you just get up. Put on a bright light. Have a cold shower. I haven't seen many people falling asleep under a cold shower. One can fall asleep walking. That is possible if you're really tired. But no, it's much less likely than sitting. Bright light is good. Even imagining bright light, but no, nowadays we can usually switch on light. Very helpful. But you are quite right, because it's very insidious. It sneaks in, the drowsiness. And it can feel very nice. And it can feel very peaceful and calmful. Very peaceful and calm. And you may think, meditation is progressing, I'm so peaceful. But in reality, you're just falling asleep or nodding. And once you develop that habit, it can be very difficult to break. Again, an excellent one is happiness. Happiness and tiredness, they just don't go together. It's not possible. Just imagine you win the jackpot in the lotto, and the guy rings on your door and informs you you won the $50 million jackpot. Could you imagine that you say, this is really fantastic news, but I'm actually quite tired. I will first sleep a few hours and then I will attend to that. Is that a realistic scenario? However tired this person may have been, the moment they get told they won the 50 million jackpot, there will be no tiredness. When you're so happy, like winning the jackpot, there will be no tiredness. So a very powerful one means of overcoming laziness, tiredness, is rapture, happiness, bliss, joy. That's probably how you could do it. I think you were flying high in Thailand. You were just so happy, joyful, happy most of the time. This is how you can stay awake.